Hello and welcome back. This is David Ammons. I'm David Ammons with Retire Wise, our podcast, and we've enjoyed some wonderful guests the last several episodes. And today we have Steve Fleming, someone that I've known for many, many years in the industry and crossed paths with over time. Steve, welcome to Retire Wise and our podcast.
Well, thank you, David.
We're, I won't say newbies at podcasts, but new to the media and using this form, but it's been very exciting for me to have the opportunity to meet different people in the industry from different aspects and kind of bring light to all of that. So tell us a little bit about Steve Fleming and Wellspring and where you are.
Well, thanks a lot, David. Great to be with you on this podcast. I appreciate your invite. Very honored. Quite frankly, as you state, we've been together a long time in terms of knowing each other as colleagues in the business.
Right.
My 39th year as a professional in aging services.
Wow.
Graduate of Chapel Hill, did a graduate work at Appalachian State, and then went on to get a little bit of a executive program at Harvard. So all wonderful things that I've been able to do throughout my career, and I've primarily been either the second or first in command of an aging services provider since believe it or not, the age of 22.
Oh, I understand. My 40th anniversary is this June.
I know, and we
both started right off the bat.
I know. There was so much similarity that we talked about. Funny. Other than Wake Forest, I mean, we're good.
Well, it looks like you were moving up the ladder. So.
Oh, I tried. But, we always have to get the digs in.
That's
the
right.
ACC
That's
schools.
right. A little bit.
Yeah, the Big Four. Being in the role I've been able to be in, and also in the association world, I've been in leadership in that arena. Let me say, none of that would have been possible without fantastic team members that I've had over my career, and you know this as well.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's surrounding yourself with people better than you that makes you so good, and I've just had the great fortune of being involved with some wonderful people and having some great mentors.
Oh yeah, we talked before about Wilson Sheldon, who I miss.
Yeah, Wilson was a great mentor for my first 10 years of my career. John Diffie became a great mentor as I worked for him for several years, but knew him prior to that, even as a student at Chapel Hill. Oh. So having those mentors and having people that help you along the way, that's so important. And for me, it was very important. But my association work is leadership roles, both in the state and at the national level, exposed me to a lot of this country and to a lot of, we used to say when you've seen one continuing care retirement community, you've seen one continuing care retirement community. Right. Well, when you've seen one state, you've seen one state. Yeah. They all have their little nuances, and people age differently, and how they want to age and what they want to experience in their aging is all a little different in each state.
That's interesting. That's good. I haven't done as much national exposure to all of that as I have Southeast, but not so much national. Were you involved also with the accreditation?
I was involved.
That's what I thought.
Earlier in my career, I was in the accreditation arena and had the opportunity to travel around and visit other campuses. So it was those are all learning experience. We learn every day, right?
Right.
And so for me, it was a wonderful. So this has been a great ride. It's been a great match with my skill sets.
That's good.
I thought I was going to be a hospital administrator. That's really what I thought I was going to school for.
Yes.
But ended up, as fate would have it, and as the good Lord would have it, I became enmeshed in this field, and it's been the best thing for me throughout my life.
So you've seen the field change a lot, both from a provider point of view and from a consumer point of view or resident point of view.
Tremendously.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think is the most different in today's clients? I know some communities, we call them residents, some members. So as they're thinking about moving to a community, whether Wellspring or any other, what do you think is the biggest change that you've seen?
Well, for one, the expectation level is obviously higher. I like to use a term today's residents kind of from the Burger King generation. And if we remember those ads in Burger King, have it your way.
Sure.
And most people do want to have it their way. Now, we got to remember they're paying an entry fee in most cases, not the rental model, but in most cases they're paying an entry fee somewhere north of 150 all the way up to $1 million.
That's right.
And so the expectation level for that kind of money is
they bought that.
That's right. They bought that.
That's right.
But I mean, we're sitting here today on the Wellspring Life Plan Community Campus in a theater. And who would have ever thought there would be a theater on campus when we started 40 years ago?
Well, at that point, theaters were little rooms, so they could watch Jeopardy at 7 o'clock.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
I mean, you might have a multi-purpose room where you change the chairs around.
That's right,
and,
too. Sure.
And so that was what we saw back then, and everybody was fine with that. Nobody was. We'd have a memorial service. We'd change the chairs around, and we would play bingo that night. But now we need to have Broadway performers. We need to have plays from local theater groups.
I find it intriguing too. People want more options and nicer options, but without formal, right? So we talk about dining venues and choices, but not as much, let's also have one that we dress up. So I know you guys have addressed that.
We have, and I think that's in most cases. Well, first of all, I should say I'm no longer just the CEO. I'm a co-CEO now of a new company called Kintura, where Wellspring, the Wellspring Group merged with the former Brightspire Group, and we formed a new company called Kintura. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit later. But when we did that, one of the things that we were doing here at that time was developing an informal dining program, because we always had a formal dining program.
Right.
And we kind of knew that's where our consumer was going, that they wanted informal. But I will say, back to when you've seen one continuing care retirement community or life plan community, you've seen one, they each have their little nuances. And what we are experiencing on this particular campus is more of a gravitation back to the formal dining. And it's very interesting to watch. They have the option, which is great, and they're going to use the option. But what they like, they are back to liking the served service. Where
linen, finer wine, everything.
Everything.
But not dress up, probably.
But not dress up, no.
That's right.
I mean,
I'm glad
I remember,
for that change.
40 years ago, well, this particular campus was opened 31 years ago.
Wow.
So 31 years ago, when it opened, there was a jacket requirement in the dining room. So all of that gone out the window now. People come in shorts. So it's much different, as you say.
Oh yeah, dramatic. How much do you think that is North Carolinian change, or how much is it, I'm not going to say driven, but we'll say influenced by North Carolina being a bigger draw to other states?
Well, I think North Carolina's a huge draw for one, other states. We've always been in the top 10 as far as continuing care retirement community development, as far as the number of campuses. We've been in the top 10. I haven't seen any metrics as of late, but I would dare to say that we would be in the top 5 in terms of the people that are coming to North Carolina to actually live in a continuing care retirement community. And that's just going to continue. We continue to hear great things coming out of the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area in terms of development. We have a lot of development just south of us here in Greensboro that, with the Toyota battery, and you just have a lot of things happening. And even here in Greensboro, we have a new supersonic airline maker.
Really?
So, and what tends to happen is those mom and dad of the worker in those new companies, they follow son or daughter to where they are.
Trailer clients, I've heard some people say.
That's it.
Trailers. So their children moved and they
why would you
trailed.
not want to come to North Carolina?
Right.
I mean, We have a great climate. We have there's a lot of stability here. I mean, real estate market is hot, but it's not crazy. You know, like you'd get in New York or the California area.
That's right.
Relatively good in terms of. If you're on the coast, you got to worry about hurricanes. But other than that, and who'd ever thought we'd have the floods we had in our mountains? But other than that, you know, we don't have some of the natural disaster tendencies that other parts of the country do. So I just think it's a great spot, and we're just going to see more and more growth here.
Oh, I think so too. I think there are the trailer concept that I mentioned, and then you're right. I'm amazed more and more. I meet people who just say, "Well, we studied 5 markets or 3 states, and we picked it." So it's a part of that's internet, part of that's a lot of things, but they just read and study and choose where to retire. So
it's amazing. We have a campus in Burlington, North Carolina, which is not a metropolis, even though the county is one of the top 10 mid-market growth markets, and Wall Street Journal has listed it as one of the top 10 for many years now. But in Burlington, North Carolina, that campus, more than 50% of the residents came from out of state.
Oh, wow, that's a big number.
And that, as you know, that's,
it used to be we said you needed 80% within 10 miles or 12 miles or whatever.
So back to your point, and they did their research, and they said, you know, this is where, and they also said, we've got a son or a daughter in Charlotte or in Raleigh, and we wanted to be we didn't want to be in those big cities, and we knew we could be within an hour and a half drive to them, so we chose here. Of course, we also have the phenomenon called the halfbackers.
Right.
Those that were in the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic states, retired first to Florida, and then said, you know, I don't really want to live in Florida all my life. This is just not for me. And they still like the mild 4 seasons, and they come to North Carolina.
You're right.
We call them halfbackers.
You're right.
They don't go all the way back north, but they go about halfway.
That's right. We get a lot of that, as you alluded to, also in the Raleigh market. Asheville is seeing more and more of that also, that people, as you said, went to Florida. The heat is different at 80 than it was at 70.
That's right.
Years old, I mean, not the degrees. So good. Can you think of anything else that has influenced, you think? You mentioned the different states having so much uniqueness. I think there's influences, right, that we see from people moving from a more diversity of areas, bring food preferences and activities preferences, and I think even hours of service we see being extended and things like that.
Yeah, no question. As far as on the dining side, we've had to open up our menu books and become a little bit more creative in what we do, what we offer. You know, more ethnic foods, more people are more health conscious than they were 40 years ago, especially.
Sure.
Steak night is still popular. However, you better have a vegan option there as well. And so all of that comes into play. They want to know, what's the calorie content here? What's the makeup of this? So they want to know all that. So we didn't have to publish that data, you know, back in the day. I think that's part of the in-migration issue, but it's also just a generational change. You know, the generational change, let's don't deny, is really big. You know, the move to the baby boomers, and the baby boomers coming in a higher consumerism time of our country's life, they are bringing that same desires, again, have it your way.
That's right. Well, they're used to influencing product and market and what's served.
Exactly.
So yeah, exactly right.
And so they're bringing that, and just the pure numbers of individuals, the demographics we see just every day, demand increasing, and all throughout the state. All campuses that I talk to today are either 95 to 100% fully occupied.
That's right.
With waiting lists.
That's right.
And I think that's going to continue because we've seen a dearth of new development occur.
Oh, there's been a big gap.
A huge gap.
Yeah.
But the demand here in the state's big. We developed a big tower on our Glen Eyre campus in Cary, North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
And filled it up within 6 months in terms of pre-sales, and then within 3 weeks, everyone had scheduled their move-in date.
Right.
Because they were so anxious and worried that they weren't going to get their place.
And it opened, as you know, almost in sync with when Searstone and Cary opened. And so 25 years ago, both communities would have been worried about we're on the same timeline. It didn't seem to slow either one of them there. It's been very impressive.
And a little case study to your point on that, this Wellspring Life Plan Community Campus opened the same time as Friends Homes West.
Oh, wow.
Which was, I was actually the administrator at Friends Homes West at the time. And when that happened, both campuses, West had a little bit bigger brand. Wellspring was a new brand at the time.
Sure.
And so the Friends Homes West campus went a little faster, but both were slow to fill up. And so it was a different time, a different era. But back to your point, today, these two campuses who expanded that expansion could happen very rapidly.
Well, and I know we used to talk about in the future, our clients will already be familiar with what a continuing care community is. That has come true. I mean, you remember we discussed that, not necessarily just you and I, but overall, that one day our market will already know our product. And that has certainly occurred and has been a big help, I think, or very positive. So.
Education of the populace has definitely helped us.
Right, to what we are. Yeah. Well, let's wrap up, but I appreciate your visiting. I know we have a few more topics, so we may create another episode or two. But I think on the concept of changes and how in-migration and all that has evolved and strengthened our communities, but in a state that was sort of destined to be doing that anyway. I find it, you said we're very fortunate. I think that's exactly right. Sometimes we wonder, did we drive that change or did the change drive what we were doing? And I think in this case, both, but probably B more so than A in my mind. So anything else you want to add or
No,
visit
again,
with?
just again, thank you for having me, David.
Sure, thank you. Enjoyed it.